Cards making profits unfold. Get that PSA gray, watch your treasures turn to gold. In every box there's a story to unfold. Hunting for that gem worth its weight in gold. Sharks cards specialized, ain't no need to fear. Whether you're a rookie or pro, we're right here. Listen to the show, dropping every other week. What cards to grab? Let's help your game peak. From the new releases to the classics that we chase, we'll guide you through the maze, put smiles on your face. Shops cards, flip for gold, grading that PSA. Watch your profits unfold. Whether you're fresh on the block or a skilled veteran, join.
All right, we'll cut that music a little short here today. Welcome in, everybody, whether you're watching this live or you are watching it later on. I told you that I'd have a partner joining me this week. I'd like to welcome in Bo.
Hey, everybody.
Bo's going to be joining me. We're going to be doing a show, try to do a combined show at least once a month. Maybe we'll get into it. Maybe it'll get to our bi-weekly, but for sure once a month for everybody. Today's going to be the kickoff show. We've got a few things planned for today. It'll probably be an hour or less. There will be some plays to make money, so hang in there. We'll probably save those for last. But Bo, why don't you, for all of the listeners, why don't you give us a little background on how you got into cards, what you used to do, and let everybody get to know you a little bit.
Okay. Hey, my name is Bo Rogers. I grew up in Arkansas, but for about the past 18 years, I've been teaching in mainly Nevada and some in Arizona. And I just moved back to Arkansas a few months ago. When I was a kid, maybe from about 10 to 17, I was buying and flipping cards a lot. I even, was a teenager doing shows at the local mall before I went off to college. But my best story is, I think it was 1989. I was at a big giant show in St. Louis, Missouri, and Willie Mays was signing autographs. And and that was when the Billy Ripken funny bat thing was going on. If you know what I'm talking about. So everybody was all talking about that card, but then my dad came and he bought a 1915 Cracker Jack Ty Cobb and a 1910 oh gosh, name split, great pitcher. Was it Mathewson? But anyway, a few years ago, I ran them through the big auction that Golden was doing right when his TV show was debuting on Netflix, and it sold for way more money than I ever had in my life. And I used that to just start doing this full time. I've worked as a photographer for a long time. I used to work for Topps. From about 1998 to 2004, I was doing NFL games for them every season. It ended up that they had to start buying the pictures directly from the NFL, so that cut me out. But nearly every Sunday, I was at Arrowhead Stadium or Soldier Field. I've been to Lambeau once. I've got a cool picture I'll show you sometime, Chad, back in the day. But
Nice.
So now I'm just, I've got some freelance photography that I do, and I'm flipping cards, I'm flipping comic books, and we'll talk about this a little bit later today, but I'm starting to grade sports magazines also.
So when he told me that story about taking pictures for Topps, it came to me, and so I saved the question for the live show here. Did you ever have a photograph used on a famous sports card?
I have a couple different Randy Moss rookies that I know for sure. I haven't, to be honest with you, I haven't really seen all of them. I was, chasing girls, and so I was, I didn't pay attention to all the, they never sent me the cards, but I remember they would send me an email before the game of everybody that they wanted extra shots of. And I was in Soldier Field for, I think it was Moss's second or third game. And he had several touchdowns at that game, and I had great stuff. I never photographed Brady at all. So I didn't have the Brady rookie or anything like that. But most of the time I was in Kansas City or Chicago, a couple times in Dallas, but with the hole in the roof at the old Texas Stadium, the photos in there are terrible because it goes from really, really bright to shade like instantly. So you don't see too many good photos inside Texas Stadium.
Have you ever thought about making a collection of Topps cards with your photos on it?
I would have to go digging through all those sets and then somebody, they don't ever give me credit. So sometimes I would be guessing. I think I took that photo. Basically they would fly me back from they'd give me a hotel, a daily fee, pay for my food, and then I'd have to overnight. This is the back end. This was film, the 4-letter F word, film. So they would I just bag up all these. They'd send me tons and tons of film, and I just run it. I had a camera that would shoot 11 frames a second. So I would, I'm just cranking out film, and then I just overnight it all in New York City the following Monday or Tuesday.
But they never told you which cards or which photos of yours they were using, huh?
Sometimes, not much though. I didn't really get a lot of communication from them. I remember that I did go to, I think it's a Keyshawn Johnson rookie year at Arrowhead Stadium when it was like 10 degrees and freezing rain. And they were impressed that the photos came out at all. And it was one where I'd shoot one play, have to pull the battery out, put in my coat, put another battery in because it was so cold that the camera just kept locking up every 30 seconds. But I had 3 sets of batteries in my coat, and I just kept switching them out between every play. Yeah, and
that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So there's a real nasty game in November or December of Keyshawn Johnson's rookie year that they gave me the most praise out of anything that I'd ever did.
Well, if it was from 98 to 04, that's only 6 years, and there wasn't a ton of it's not like today where there's 100 different sets for football.
So a Stadium Club and then the regular Topps. I know I had a lot in Stadium Club.
Yeah, that might be something. We might have to start a little thing going there where we can identify which pictures you took and do something for the audience that who can send a card in and get it graded with the highest grade. They get a prize or something.
Oh yeah. You remember JD Drew?
Yeah.
Because I was in Arkansas, and when he went to AA or AAA in Little Rock, because I also worked for the Associated Press and I worked for the local newspaper here, and the Associated Press sent me down to Little Rock to photograph his first game with AA, and that got published in Sports Illustrated.
That's cool.
That was in that was my first big time of getting published, but I've been published in the Los Angeles, lots of newspapers and magazines and stuff like that.
Well, that's cool. I hope the viewers find that as interesting as I do. I think that's kind of cool that you took pictures and that some of your pictures were used on some of the cards. If I was you, I'd be combing through those sets trying to figure out which ones were mine, and that I would start a collection of all the cards that I knew were my pictures. I think that'd be super cool.
There's a soccer team coming in. It's not MLS. What is the other pro league in the United States that has teams all over the country? USL or something like that. Yeah. But there's a new pro women's and men's soccer team like 5 miles down the road from where I'm staying that's going to start in a couple of years. And I'm trying to find out who's running it and seeing if I could swing a job part-time as being their official photographer.
Yeah. So that leads in what you're current. So for the viewers, you currently are a photographer, right? That is what you do still.
Yes, but I haven't really done much of it lately. Since I stopped teaching in May. But I have camera gear here. I'm ready. I signed up with the local newspaper. They want me to shoot high school football for them every Friday night. So I haven't done that in 20-something years, but so I'm looking forward to being back out on the field for high school football.
I'm assuming you still have all the expensive camera gear and stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. All right. Well, That's fascinating. Why don't we? I guess I'll start. I've had a lot of the viewers asking me. I've had a number of people message me and ask me if I was going to Fanatics Fest, and the answer was no. I did not go to Fanatics Fest. I have zero interest in going to Fanatics Fest. So everybody was, when they'd hear that I didn't go, they were like, "Well, are you going to go next year?" No, I'm not. Unless it comes somewhere near me, I have no interest in going to anything like that. Fanatics Fest is great for the hobby in terms of taking people that don't know about sports cards, but they're sports fanatics, and introducing them to sports cards and autographs and memorabilia and things of that nature. But I'm not a huge fan of a great big large event like that where you'd go spend $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 with travel and food and expenses. Those types of shows are not real good for being able to buy cards to flip to make money. So I find it very difficult to. You can get some of the exclusives like this year. They had the EQL set up where there were a couple different drops that you could get, and the people that did it, were able to make $500, $600, $700, $800 doing that. And you can get about half of your expenses paid back with that. But the actual card show is only about 200 to 250 tables. I can, within a 3-hour drive, I can drive to 250 card table shows that would have a lot more opportunities, lower prices, more willing to move. So I think it's a cool event. If it ever came to Chicago, I might consider going and attending it just for the experience, but I would never spend 3 or 4 days doing it. That's just not something that excites me. So there's the answer for everybody. No, I'm not. If it comes to Chicago, I might attend it for one day. But that brings us into, you and I were talking about the National. It's coming up. It's 2 months away. It's the end of, actually it's it's a month away. It's 5 weeks away. It's the end of July. And it's within driving distance for me. It's about a 2-hour drive. So I do not go down and stay there. I drive back and forth with my work schedule. I'm taking 2 days off. My original plan was I was going to be there Wednesday and Saturday, but then I realized Wednesday is only a 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock day down there. It's like a half a day. So I'm thinking I might switch and do either Thursday or Friday. I'm thinking maybe Thursday and Saturday. I'll have to see what I can work out with my work schedule, but I like to get down there one of the early days before the crowds get too huge. It allows you to get up to the tables and look for cards and plays. And then I like to come back on Saturday just because it's an experience. If you've never been to the National on a Saturday, there will be hundreds of thousands of people there in one building, in one room, all people that are interested in cards. You get to see people you haven't met. I'm hoping to meet up with you on one of those days. A few other members have mentioned that they wanted to meet up with me. So Saturday will probably be the meetup day, hangout day, talking cards day. Maybe, I don't know if I'll do any vlog footage or not from the show, but the show itself, every year we kind of do some tips. So I thought I'd get into a few tips to do for the National this year. For those that have never been, or for those that have been and have been consumed by what is the National, it's an absolutely gigantic place that you can get lost in. There's different levels, different floors, different rooms. It's very overwhelming. So what I recommend, some tips is bring some water, bring some snacks if you've got a little bag. If you're not getting the VIP ticket where you can go into the VIP room and get bottled water or water from a jug, Bring some water, bring some snacks, like a peanut butter snack, something with protein in it to give you some energy. And then if you're looking to trade, I would not bring, unless you want to tote around a great big case with hundreds of cards in it. That's why I like to go in a couple different days. Either I leave the cards locked in the trunk of the car, or I'll bring them back on the second day if there's something I want to trade for. Because it's really packed, it's really big, and to carry a case around, it gets to be a lot. You'll get very tired out. When you go to a national, the national is a large. It's the largest show I've ever seen in terms of vintage cards. So, like last year or 2 years ago at Chicago, I would say half of what the show floor was vintage, and you had to wait. At that time, I went in there thinking I was going to look for baseball prospects. The big ones were Holiday was the guy I was really chasing, Holiday autos. And it turned out that there were very few people that had them. Most of those cards got cleaned out by either Wednesday or before the show started, because what happens is you get all of these people's the people that are running breaks, and they go in and they try and buy up as much inventory as they can before the show floor opens. So a lot of that modern, very, very late stuff, I would say, like this year will be the 2024, the 4 or 5 quarterbacks from the NFL, I would guess will be the hottest things at the national, but they're going to be very hard to find because they're going to be all bought up very early, either before the show floor opens on Wednesday or by the time Thursday or Friday. By Saturday, you're going to have a hard time finding any of that stuff anywhere on the floor. It's all going to be gone. So go in there with an idea of pick 4 or 5 different cards that you're looking for that you can focus on, because otherwise you're going to get completely overwhelmed. It's too much to go in there without a plan. If you just go in and start thinking, well, I'm just going to walk around and look for deals, you're never going to make it through the show floor. You might not make it through 10%, because you could literally spend a half an hour to an hour at almost every single person's table. And you're talking 400 tables or however many tables are there. It's ginormous. And you will get swallowed up and spit out. You're going to be tired. You're not going to end up with anything. So go into the national with a plan. Have a handful of cards that you're looking for. I would suggest maybe having 2 different sports, so that if one of them is already bought up or gone, that you would have a fallback plan. And then you can start asking some of the vendors when you get in there, if you're not seeing what you're looking for, they might be able to point you in the direction like, oh yeah, I saw some of that stuff in the back corner or whatever. Most of the modern stuff was in the way back of the show hall last year. The first half of it was almost all vintage. So you've got to get into the showaways to get, if you're not into the vintage high dollar stuff, you got to get into the show hallaways before you can find the type of stuff that you're going to be buying and flipping.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So you're saying about how the football stuff will typically gets bought up quickly. I've only had one PSA order come back to me so far this year, but I have some really good football stuff that I'm planning on taking with me to get rid of. Is my best bet going to the trade night at night? Or I hear that I have the hotel that's across the street that they'll do trade nights at the hotels at night. Is that my best bet for moving that stuff?
Yeah, if you don't want to log it, chug it through the whole entire show, the trade night is fantastic for moving your own personal stuff without having to get a table. you'll sell out quick. If you've got desirable stuff, chances are you're going to find a buyer for a breaker. So, some buyer is going to be there that is doing these repacks, and they're going to go through your stuff and they're going to make you offers. And most of the buyers for the repackers, they'll pay where a lot of people, they'll take, well, what's comps? Comps $100. I'll give you 80 or 85 because I got to have room to flip. These breakers or repackers, I guess is what they're called. The repackers, the buyers for the repackers, they often will pay you 95 or 100% of comps if it's a desirable card, because the margins of which they're making money on is astronomical. I mean, it's not uncommon for one of these larger repackers to make $100,000 on one repack. I don't know how many cards they put out in it, but the repacking has some people like it, some people hate it, some people claim it's ruining our hobby. But it's what drives the prices at these big shows. The repackers just go through and they buy up all the desirable stuff that's in a good price range, and they are hot and heavy at the trade nights. So yeah, I would say the trade night at the hotel. There's 3 big ones at this year's national that I'm aware of. I don't know if you follow Filmington at all. He's part of one that he puts on, a pretty good one. And then they've got the one at the hotel in the lobby. There's actually 2 on Friday night. There's 2 different hotels that are advertising trade nights. But I believe you said you're at the hotel right across the street, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the main hotel. There'll be at least one trade night at that hotel, and I would be surprised if you couldn't get rid of everything you had within a matter of an hour of walking in there on trade night.
I like that.
Yeah, so I wouldn't recommend taking it and lugging it all over the showroom, looking for trying to trade or trying to sell it to the vendors. Just take it to the trade night. Look for one of those repackers. If you walk in, believe me, they find you. The repackers, they find you. They find you quick, because that's what they get paid to do. They're there. They've got, most of those repackers have, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 budgets. They're not worried about, trying to bend you over to get you short on a comp. They'll just, like, if it's a good card, to be like, okay, comp is this, I'll pay you this. Let's roll. I got to go hit up 4 more people and buy out their inventory. So you'll be surprised at a trade night. It's crazy.
Okay. Sounds great. I've never been, so I'm super excited.
Yeah. I don't believe that I'll make a trade night this year. 2 years ago, I went on the second night that I was down there. We went, was it the first night I don't remember if it was the first night or second night. Anyways, last year or 2 years ago, I went one day with my boys, which I'm hoping maybe they'll come with me again this year for one of the days. And then the other day was when I met up with the other guys from the show that I was on, and we went out to dinner. Actually, I think we went out to dinner both nights. Once was at a pizza place, once was in the hotel lobby. But anyways, and there was a trade night there. I didn't have any cards. I didn't take anything to sell. But the guys from the other show, they sold out within 30 minutes of being there. They sold out everything they had. So trade nights are definitely the way to go.
Awesome.
So, all right. For those of you that are unaware, Bo's going to talk a little bit. PSA has announced that they are going to be getting into the magazine grading. Right now, the major player in that space is CSG. They are all the top magazines, from what I understand, comics and things of that nature, are all graded by CSG. PSA wants to dip their toes in that water and to be a major competitor. And I would imagine with the money and the technology that PSA has, they are going to come in and make some noise early. I have no experience with this. I've never done it. So I'm going to hand this over to you, and you can talk about what you're doing and what your plan is, and a little bit about it, and share with us. Maybe we can all learn from you.
Okay. So can we see this? Okay. So the camera's flipped, whatever, but this is a Slam magazine. I think this is the first one with Caitlin Clark in her pro uniform, and I've got the first one with her in the Iowa uniform. I think that CGC has been doing sports magazines for a long time, but I have a feeling that PSA is going to do it better. Now I've graded comics, and I'm not going to send comics to PSA. I think CGC is going to continue to be number one with pop culture stuff. But with sports stuff, I think PSA might take over that market. I'm going to give it a shot. So I have got about 25 different, magazines that I've been buying. This is the Time magazine with Caitlin Clark, Athlete of the Year. You really don't want to use subscription ones, because if it's got your name and address on the label on the front, the value drops immediately. So you can buy the newsstand copies. For example, about 3 days ago, I bought 5 copies of the new Sports Illustrated with Cooper Flagg on it. It hasn't shown up yet, but it's his first sports. I think it's his first appearance on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I run him. I put like different kinds of paper on the centerfold and between every 8 to 10 pages, and SRP paper and different paper on both sides of the books. And I use a t-shirt press. It takes 12 hours but I run it at 135 degrees. I made the mistake a long time ago when I was pressing comics that the press that I had, it ran at 300 degrees and you couldn't change it. And on old comics from the 60s, it worked. But if you put something that was fairly new, or if they used glue instead of staples, it would just melt everything. Wow. But you can get at, Amazon, eBay, you can get a generic t-shirt press that you can pick the exact temperature you want and how long you want it. And with these sports magazines, I've been running it at 135 degrees, and then it's under heat for about 8 minutes, and then I let it just sit for 12 hours. That way, if there's like a bump, it flattens it out.
I was going to say, so if you're buying 5 fresh magazines and nobody's ever thumbed through them, what is the advantage of pressing?
Well, if it breaks color, there's nothing you can do to fix it. So if it's got a bend and then the color on the paper has then there's nothing you can do about it. But if you've got a bend or somebody they read it too much, pushed too hard on it. Sometimes they get bent corners coming through the mail, but as long as the color's not broke, the heat press will fix that. So, the comic book people are kind of up in arms about PSA's grading scale for how they're going to do the magazines and comics. Like CGC, most people are looking for a 9.8 because it's nearly impossible to have a perfect 10 magazine comic, because there's a lot more stuff that can go wrong than a card.
Sure.
But so they have a 9.8, a 9.9, and a 10, and the 9.9s and the 10s are next to impossible to get. But PSA has it sounds like they're trying to push the 10 a little bit more. They have like a special gold label at the top. It's going to look just like the regular label that you're used to on the cards, except it's a lot bigger. But they have if you get a 10 for some reason, then you got a gold. I'm doing one a day, and I've only done 4 so far, but I've got about 25 of them. And on July 14th, whenever they start taking submissions, I'm going to try to send in a batch that day, be one of the first people in just to see how it goes. I'm curious to how much it's going to cost, because with CGC, a comic, I've never graded magazines before. This is my first time, but with CGC, comic books are about $25-$30 for, just your regular normal comic book. If you send in like, a first appearance of Spider-Man, you're going to pay like $50,000 to get that thing graded. They do the same thing that PSA does with their markups on really valuable stuff.
Yeah, when we started talking about this, it gave me the idea that maybe that's what I can do with some of these. I have the PSA subscription magazines, and I never open them. So, never. I used to open them and read them all the time, but now they come in a plastic sealed bag. Matter of fact, I think I've got one right here. Yeah.
Now, some of those PSA ones are limited edition versions.
So, do not bend. It comes in a plastic sleeve. I don't even know what's the cover of this because I never opened it.
Yep. I have some of those are valuable graded. You could go to eBay and put in Michael Jordan PSA magazine, and you will see that some graded copies have sold.
Yeah. So on the edge, it tells you it's February 2025, volume 38, Vince Carter.
Mm-hmm.
So it made me think, I don't have a press. I don't plan on buying a press. I don't plan on getting that big into it. But like the Caitlin Clark, maybe a Michael Jordan, maybe, some special episode one. I thought about just leaving it right in this plastic sleeve and sending it in just to see what kind of a grade I would get. I've got a friend of mine that down in Ohio that does a lot. Matter of fact, he's got his own channel on comics and stuff. But he does quite well with it, and he always says it's not worth the extra money. So for his personal collection, he I think 9.2 is there such a thing as a 9.2?
Yep.
I think he said he goes after the 9.2s because he thought that is where the most money was to be had at buying and flipping and keeping and that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I thought I might. I've got a stack, I don't know, 2-foot high stack of unopened magazines.
It might be worth trying that, Chad. Especially the Caitlin Clark, the Michael Jordan ones. I don't think it's going to be a bulk. I wish they'd post their prices so you can see kind of what we're aiming for. But
here's another one. Yeah, like here's January was Michael Jordan. I have no idea what the cover is because I never opened it up.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes those, the PSA makes alternate covers.
Yeah,
I don't think they ever come to us, but I've seen them, and they go for a lot more money.
I got one probably 2 years ago. I got a limited edition one, and the only reason I knew it was limited edition was because I saw one selling on eBay, and I thought, wait a minute, I just got that in the mail not too long. I got that same exact cover, and then I was reading the description, and it was like one of 500. I think they had 500 special. Nowhere in the magazine at all did it say it. It just people knew it because it had a different picture on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
And so I flipped that one. I sold that one on eBay, I think, for like $75.
Okay.
It almost paid for my entire year's membership at PSA. But I've got 2, 3, 4 years worth, just a stack of these things. There's got to be a few of them that have some attractive covers. So I might try and send a couple in just to dabble in it. I've sent in a few Pokemon cards to dabble in that space as well. Because if we're going to be on here talking, we can't give people advice if you haven't tried it and you don't have experience on it. So nice. I'll probably try a magazine or two just so I can talk somewhat intelligently about it.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely worth a shot. Or if you're at a garage sale and you happen to luck out, like the first appearance of Michael Jordan on a Sports Illustrated, I think there was one of him in North Carolina jersey, and then that one, and then the first Bulls one, those are worth a ton of money. If you happen to see one somewhere.
I have one magazine that I've kept forever. And it was, I was growing up, everything, number 32, I was Magic Johnson. I was, every sport I played, I had to be number 32. I had to be Magic Johnson. He was my favorite player. And when he announced that he had HIV and it made the cover of Sports Illustrated, I've got that magazine. And I bought it figuring it would be collectible. So it's still in the plastic. I've never opened it. I thought that might be my first one I try and send in, because I got to think that's worth something.
I bet it is. If you see any flaws with it at all, you can send it to me and I'll press it for you. So
Okay.
I mean, if there's any like bends or corners nicked or anything like that.
Sure. Yeah, I just thought that if nothing else, because it's Magic Johnson and I planned on keeping it forever, even if it comes back a bad grade, I can at least talk about it then, and I'll have it preserved for the next 20 years or whatever. So I figured it'd be a good one to start on, because I don't care what the grade comes back.
Right. And from what I've heard, unlike the CGC cases, the new PSA ones are going to be UV protected. So if you wanted to put it up on the wall, you wouldn't have to worry so much about the sun fading it out.
Right. All right, let's get into some plays here. You can chime in with me as we go here. Give me your 2 cents, or if there's something that you want to chime in on. But I know a lot of these viewers watch this show for one reason, and that's to help them make some money. It's not because of our pretty faces as much as we'd like to think that. So, all right, let's get started here. So the first card we're going to talk about here today is Evan Mobley. This is a 2021. It's the Prism Silver. The Cavs made a deep run into the playoffs this year and then had a very disappointing end. 5 games got bounced by the Pacers, just like my Bucks did. But I have a feeling the Cavs are going to be good for many years to come. Evan Mobley is one of the players that is one of the stars on the team. He's a young up-and-comer. The Silver Prism raw most recent sale was $8. As you can see, it's peaked as high as 20 and as low as $4 in the last 30 days. The average is about $10. So I would expect to spend $8 to $12 for a decent copy of this. $25 is what I figure for $19.95 for grading and $2.50 to ship it each way, doing a bulk order. So I always figure $25 for grading. So $10 for the card, $25 for grading. You have $35 in it. There have been 26 sales of this card in the last 30 days, so about 1 per day. Should be an easy enough card to come by to find. The PSA 9 sells for $35. So essentially you're going to be out your eBay grading, your eBay fees. You'll recover your grading fees. So it's a very low floor on it, or a high floor, I guess you would call it. And then the PSA 10 sells for $200. So for a $35 investment with grading, with a chance to break even on a PSA 9, with the opportunity to almost 5x your money on a PSA 10, I really like that play. It does have a 33% gem rate, and there have been 16 that have gemmed in the last year. So Evan Mobley Silver Prism. Next card up, going to be Ja Morant. As long as Ja Morant, I made a lot of money on Ja Morant last year. In my last video a couple weeks ago, I talked about it was one of my favorite plays. If you're buying an already graded PSA 10, I think there's plenty of money to be made there to buy it already in a PSA 10, as well as plenty of money to be made in the raw to grade. Ja Morant is electric. He's one of the best players in the NBA. He's still a little bit on the immature side, and he still does a lot of stupid stuff. So there is the risk that at any point in time he could do something and get suspended for the year, and his value could go to nothing. So there is that risk with a little asterisk, but his play is going to bring up a lot of value. Last year, I recommended to buy him the PSA 10s when they got down around that $320 mark. And then I recommended selling them when they got almost up to 500. So everybody should have made between 100 and 150 bucks on that play last year. I'm recommending it again. Now is the time to get in, whether you want to buy the PSA 10 or go raw to grade. Raw, $20.50, most recent sale, 13 sales in the last 30 days, so about one every other day. The 30-day average is $47. So the $20 most recent sale is a bit of an anomaly. I don't think you're going to find another one for 20 bucks. And if you do, there's probably a scuff or a scratch or a print line on it. So I would throw that one out. I would look at the 30-day average of $47, and I would expect to spend somewhere between 40 and 60 bucks for a decent one of these. Add in your grading fees, and you're anywhere from $65 to $85 all in. The PSA 9 most recent sale was $88. So you're about a break even if you had to pay 60 bucks for a really nice copy. A PSA 9 breaks you even. You might lose some eBay fees, but you might wash out completely. And if you can get one closer to 40, you could pick up 10 or 15 bucks on a PSA 9. The PSA 10 currently is only selling for $222. That means that you're going to, 3x your money if you get raw to grade and you buy and get a PSA 10, you're going to triple your money. So great return on investment. However, there is a 34% gem rate. 100 of these have gemmed in the last year, so there are still plenty of them getting gemmed every single month. 1,773 is the pop count right now. But this card between now and the start of the season, most likely between now and the in-season tournament in December, I would be shocked if this card doesn't get back to $350-ish. So it's a card that I'm recommending both as a raw to grade as well as a go ahead and take all the risk out of it and buy it as a PSA 10. And I absolutely love this card. All right. Next card up on the docket. We're going to do Jalen Brunson. The Knicks are going to reload. They're going to be back. They're going to be one of the best 4 teams in the East again next year. One of these years, the Knicks are going to make it over the hump and they're going to make it to the finals. When they do, Jalen Brunson's going to go to the moon. But until then, this raw to grade play is a very safe, conservative way for you to make some money. $25 is the most recent sale. $30 is the 30-day average. Only 6 of these have sold in the last month, so about one every 5 days is what you can expect. About one a week, a little more than one a week, 1.5 a week. So it's a little bit harder card to come by, but it's not a real expensive card at $25. The PSA 9 sells for $83. So even if you're spending 30 bucks in grading fees, you're picking up 20 bucks on a PSA 9. So it's a great play because you don't need a 10 to make money. On a 10, it's $158. So you're going to 5 to 6x your money. You're going to turn 50 bucks into 150. That's what, a 300% return on investment. So that is a very safe play and a way to make some money without spending a ton of money. I also like Brunson and some other cards, but for the raw to grade, the pink ice made the most sense. All right, next up, we're going to go with Alperen Sengun. $9.99, say $10 is his most recent sale for a silver prism, raw condition. 26 sales in the last 30 days, so about 1 per day. The 30-day average is $13. So as you can see, it fluctuates mostly between $8 and $18, with $13 being the average. PSA 9 is $39. So spend $10, $25 for grading. You're going to break even on a PSA 9. A PSA 10, $190. So again, about a 400% return on investment if you get a 10. It does have a 28% gem rate, and there have been 100 or 76 of these that have gemmed in the last year. So again, even though it's a couple of years old, that card is still gemming at a pretty good rate. And the Rockets are making a lot of noise with some of the moves that they're making. I think the addition of Durant, although I'm not a fan of the trade, I think the addition of Durant is going to potentially move up the value of some of these other players. All right, this is one of my favorite plays of today. I talked about this card also a couple weeks ago in a PSA 10 and said I was not a buyer in a PSA 10 because I thought it was too expensive. So the way you're going to get a PSA 10 on this card is to do the raw to grade play. Cade Cunningham, Silver Prism. The Detroit Pistons are up and comers. They made the playoffs this year. I expect them to take another step. They'll be a little bit more of a contender next year. We'll see what they do in the draft and free agency. But Cade is the star on that team, and his cards continue to rise. $38 in raw condition, 37 sales in the last 30 days, so a little better than one per day. And the 30-day average is $40. So pretty consistent in that $40-ish range. You can get a Silver Prism of Cade Cunningham. The PSA 9 most recent sale was $68. So again, $40 and $25. It's about a break even on a PSA 9. The PSA 10 sells for $495. The reason that is it has only an 18% gem rate. So this is a card you're probably going to have to buy 3, 4, or 5 of these cards, invest a couple $300 and say 5 of these cards, and hope that you get one PSA 10 and break even on the 9s. The likelihood of buying one and getting it to 10 is 18%. So this is a play you're probably going to have to make in bulk to go out and get a 10. But if you can get that 10, this is a play that is well worth the money.
It seems like I've looked for that card on eBay, and it seems like it's pretty hard to find centered copies.
It is, which is why it's 18% gem rate,
right?
And $500 for a PSA 10. All right, let's see what else we got here. We should have next card up. This card I've talked about this card probably, I don't know, 6 times in the last year on this show with raw to grade plays. This card continues to be a great raw to grade play. The card is hard to come by. That's the problem with this card. It's the 2019 Prism Orange Ice Kobe Bryant, card number 8. Last sale was $70. You can see the last 3 sales on this card were $51, $125, and $70. So up and down, very large, wide range. Only 3 sales, so about one every 10 day. And there's a range of $50 to $125. So hard card to come by, but it's a card that is worth it. So even if you got to pay $120 or $25 with the grading fee, you got $150 in it. A PSA 9, the most recent sale was $160. So you're breaking even on a 9 even by paying $120 for this card. A PSA 10, you get rewarded with $404. So a little better than doubling your money, a nice way to pick up $250 profit. And it gems at 30%, so 1 out of 3. So Not a bad gem rate for a card that you can get such a high rate of return. It's not the grading that's hard on this card. It's finding this card out in the open, finding this card in the wild for sale in that $120 or less range. That is the trick to this card. If you can find the card, they tend to grade fairly well. It's 18% on a PSA 10, but it had a 74% rate at a PSA 9. So it's a 92% card for a 9 or better. And a 9 you're breaking even. It's definitely worth the while if you can find that card. All right, we're going to finish up with a Victor card because I think Victor is going to be the talk of the NBA for years to come, for sure this year, coming off an injury. They're going to be adding some nice weapons here, I think, either via trade or via the draft. They've got a great nucleus with Fox, Wemby, and Castle. I'm sorry, Fox and Wemby. You're going to see some really nice additions, I think, coming. They are going to do everything they can to get Wemby to a championship sooner rather than later, because it's also good for the NBA if that happens, because he is the most talked about player probably since LeBron came out. So the card I picked out for Wembanyama that gives you the best raw to grade return is the Prism card 136, the Blue Wave version. Blue Wave is $188 most recent sale, 4 sales in the last 30 days, so about 1 a week. You're looking at $209 for a 30-day average. So $180 to $210 is about where you're going to spend on this card. The PSA 9 comes back at $295. So you're looking at about a $30 to $40 profit on a PSA 9. And a PSA 10 is $1,050. So you're taking a $250 investment, a 400% rate of return, and it's a 25% gem rate. So 1 out of 4. So if you can afford it, there again, this is one I might go out and buy 4 of these, invest $800 plus grading. You'll have $900 invested in 4 of these. If you can get 110, the 3 9s or whatever grades you get on the other 3 are free. That's your profit. So this is a very nice play to make if you can afford to make it in volume. And if you can't, I think you still take your chances if you can afford $200 plus grading fees to go out and get yourself a nice Wembanyama card.
Well, last winter, was it the red ice one that you recommended?
Yeah, the red ice and then the orange ice. Those were 2. I did the orange ice play. It spent 4 months, almost 3.5 months at PSA, and it came back at 10. About a month or so ago, I got that one came back. So I do have an orange ice 10 Wembanyama. That was a raw to grade.
I did 2 of the red ice ones that you recommended. I think I paid about $150 each, and they came from China, and I got 10s on both of them.
Awesome. Have you flipped them yet, or are you holding them?
I feel with Wemby, I kind of want to, because I really like the guy a lot. I feel like that I'm going to wait until he's in the playoffs before I sell Wemby.
Yeah, I agree. Those are 2 cards I would hang on to for a while. The orange ice, I'm actually debating just throwing it in my PC and forgetting about it. Right now, if I were to sell it, the orange is going for $505. I've got about $175 with grading fees in it, so I could make a nice $300 profit. But I'm leaning towards, because I wanted a nice Wembanyama card for my PC. I'm thinking I'm just gonna throw it in the safe and forget about it. I'm gonna try and I'm gonna look for one of these blue waves and try and make this blue wave play, and then flip one of those.
Nice.
So all right.
I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
What are we doing with Cooper Flagg tonight? What's the price limit on buying an auto? Would you even? I'm so bummed at getting cards back from Panini that I paid a lot for, and they're crazy offsides.
Yeah.
So I'm like, do you just buy some draft night stuff, go cheap, or what's the price that you jump in on an auto?
Well, I think that Panini is going to be smart, and they're going to price Cooper Flag prices up there to the point where the majority of collectors aren't going to be willing to pay the base entry price for it.
Like $800 or more.
Yeah, I'm thinking that the base ones will probably be $499. And then they'll go up from there. The Tigers will probably be like $1,400. The Zebra or whatever they call it, that might be $2,500. I think they're going to price them up there. I don't think you're going to get any $299 base Cooper Flag autos tonight.
Mm-hmm.
If you do, I'll be hitting the button. I'll buy at least one. At $499, I'm not going to touch them. My plan is tonight. I plan on buying one bundle of Cooper Flag cards. I will probably buy. I used to buy 20, 40 of them and get them graded. And I found that although it works with some players, and Cooper might be one of those players, it limits my liability. I've been sticking to 5 or 10, and that's been working out really well with me. So I will probably buy 10 base non-autos tonight, and depending upon what the auto comes out at, I might jump at an auto. If it was $299 or less. At $499, I'm probably leaving it. At $399, I'm going to have to scratch my head and go, all right, it's in between. Does that make sense? I really think that the Cooper's, he's going number one. There's no question about it. AC is really going to be the one tonight that where does AC fall? He could go as high as number 3. You could see him fall as late as number 8, 9, 10, maybe into the teens.
I think he's
arguably the second best player in the draft to Cooper Flag. However, he's so inconsistent. And he's from what I understand, he's a little bit of a Ja Morant type, where he might have some off-field issues, some character issues. So teams are a little hesitant to pull the trigger on him. So I think he's really the wild card. I'm hoping that AC has some, $49.99 or $79.99 base autos. And if they do, I'll probably buy 2 or 3 of him tonight. Just because it's high risk, high reward. But I think he's the one player that I'd be willing to take a high risk on, because the autos might be affordable enough to where it makes sense.
Okay, cool. He's the guy that refused to work out for the 76ers,
yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yep. He's trying to he wants, for whatever reason, he wants to go somewhere in the 7 to 10 range. He doesn't want to. He's made it perfectly clear that he doesn't want to play for any of the teams in the first 6 draft slots. But one of them might say, "Too bad we're drafting you anyways." You just never know. But so he's a little bit of a head case, but talent-wise, he's unbelievable. So I might take a flyer on an auto of his if they're cheap enough.
Me too.
All right. Well, this was a great first show. Thanks for joining me. For those of you guys, we'll put out ahead of time. We will for sure get another one in before the National. So we'll probably looking at like the 3rd week of July, and I may or may not put out a raw to grade play in between there in a couple of weeks. we'll see how my schedule goes. I have off this week, and I'm busier this week, it seems like, than I am at work. I need to go back to work to slow down. So, all right. Well, that sounds good, Bo. We'll be in touch. And thanks, everybody, for watching. Have a great week.
Everybody.
All right.
I think we're still live, aren't we?
No, I ended it.
Okay. My clock is, I guess, because I'm live with you.
Yeah, it could be.